I would like to welcome you to Pete Adams's Own the Cheese seminars. Our seminars are meant to empower you with the education and the tools that you will need to escape the rat race and become financially free. Our courses are anything but theory. Theory is the stuff that you pay big money for but which has no value outside of the classroom. Believe me when I say this, as I have sat through countless lectures in college and graduate school, which were taught by people who had never stepped foot outside of the classroom their entire career, and they consider themselves to be the so-called experts in their field. In the real world, theory isn't worth the paper it's written on. I have both a Bachelor of Science degree in Finance as well as an MSF, which is a Master of Science degree in Finance. I went to school to become a money manager and run investment portfolios consisting of stocks and bonds. One day while I was in graduate school, the light went off, and I realized that real estate was the best investment that there was, so I changed gears, and I went into business for myself as a real estate investor. What I've learned over the past 20 plus years, I'm going to be teaching you. Besides investing in real estate, I've also invested in and managed businesses in both North and South America. I'm not talking about buying shares of stock of these companies. I'm talking about building them from the ground up and running them on a day-to-day basis. I've also purchased existing businesses and have taken them to a level where they are manager managed, and I spend my time doing whatever I want while someone else runs and manages the business for us. What I've learned over my career is nothing you could ever imagine learning at college at any price, as they simply don't even offer programs such as this. Our programs will give you the education that you need to become a successful investor and entrepreneur. We will do everything that we can to help you become successful, but I want to tell you up front that you are going to need to commit to your own success. Many people like to talk about it, but there are probably less than 1% of the entire population in the free world who will actually leave the rat race and become successful. One thing that I absolutely want to get across to you right from the start is that it doesn't matter where you're starting from. I can absolutely teach you how to become wealthy within your lifetime. If that sounds interesting to you, then let's jump in and start talking about life as a rat. I know the title of this video might sound a little harsh, but if you are in the rat race, then by definition, that makes you a rat. The overwhelming majority of the world's population in the industrial world is too, so don't think that being a rat is anything but the status quo. Rats come in all varieties, and if you are relying on a job as the source of the majority of your personal income, then again, you're a rat. There are a number of rats who have completely deluded themselves from the fact that they are rats. They just live in bigger houses and drive more expensive automobiles. If you are a higher earning professional who relies on trading time for money, then I have news for you. You too are a rat. The most dangerous place to be a rat is to believe that you are comfortable. When a rat believes that they are comfortable, that just means they have been trading their time for a better quality of cheese. Still in denial about being a rat? And answer this question. If you lost your job tomorrow morning, how long would you be able to last financially without losing it all? 1 week? 6 months? How long would it take you to burn through your savings, 401k, etc., without any additional income from working? If your answer is decades or the rest of your life, congratulations, you're not a rat. If that wasn't the answer, then I have some real bad news for you. You're a rat. And let's talk about how you got here. More than likely, you followed the sound advice of the old world, and you went to college so that you would graduate and get a good job. To make matters worse, you more than likely had to borrow money to help pay for your education, and after graduation you got a job and began trading your time for money. Once you were gainfully employed as a rat, you began to accumulate stuff, such as a home, an automobile, and a lifestyle. Because you could not afford to pay cash for these bigger ticket items, you relied on financing to pay for your stuff, and you spent as much as they would let you borrow. I am not passing any kind of judgment on you. This is the world of consumerism, and it is the norm for our society. This is what everyone else is doing, so you don't even notice it. Our society equates buying more expensive stuff as a symbol of financial success. Consumerism is almost a competitive sport whereby the one who can buy the most expensive stuff, quote unquote, wins the rat race. Consumerism may be good for the overall economy, is not how you win the rat race. Instead, it's how you become chained to it. Following the sound advice of society and doing what everyone else is doing is just how you got here. Being a rat today is a lot more dangerous than it has ever been before. I know this from my personal experience. And over the past 50 years, the economic game has changed dramatically. It's only going to get worse, I'm sorry to say. Our elected politicians basically tell all of us that if you vote for our party, we will return this to a rat nirvana, and there will be a full employment and chicken in every pot. Unless they have a time machine to go back to the 1960s, nothing could be further from the truth. Advances in technology will probably eliminate 100 jobs for everyone they create. A few years ago, I read an excellent editorial in the local newspaper. The gentleman who wrote the article was 75 years old, and he wrote about a number of jobs which he had held over his lifetime and how none of them existed anymore. One of the jobs was that of an attendant pumping gasoline at a service station. Another had been as a cashier at a local grocery store. Those jobs which he held as a young man had now been replaced with paid the pump self-service and self-checkout at the grocery store. There were a number of additional examples, but the point he was making was that all the jobs that he formerly held as a youth are now being held by machines. If you are a rat who can be replaced by a machine, more than likely you will be at some point in the future. Boom in technology, along with the increased speed of the internet, is making our world a much smaller place. Those of us who remember what the world was like before the internet and where we have come in as little over 20 years is absolutely astonishing. You could almost say that we now live in a virtual world, whereby anything can be done by anyone around the globe. As an entrepreneur, this is a good thing, as you can outsource and bring your labor costs and production costs down. As a rat living in the West, you are watching domestic jobs disappear and reappear on the other side of the world. Globalization has also led to low wages here in the industrialized world, as not getting a raise is better than not having a job. If that was enough bad news for rats, there's more. More than likely, your government is going to start asking you to pay your fair share of taxes, which means they're going up, leaving you with less money in your pocket. Also, they are moving the goalposts on the retirement field, which means that if you are younger, they're going to keep you in the game that much longer. Speaking of retirement, will you actually be able to afford to retire without the need to work? I think the only people who might be safe on this question are people who have spent their entire adult lives working for the government, as that is pretty much the only place where a pension plan still exists. If your retirement plan is based on savings and investing in a 401k or an individual retirement account, the answer most likely is no. There will be some exceptions to this, and those will be the people who live below their means and socked away all the money that they could over their entire working life. Most people who have a 401k program will only invest enough money into their account to get whatever is being matched by their employer. Let's say that your employer will match your savings rate at 50% of the first 6% of your gross income. Most of your coworkers will only put in 6% of their gross pre-tax salary. The common reasoning is that, why should I put more money away if I'm not getting matched? I know everyone knows better than this, but this is what they do. Most people operate under the notion that they will contribute more at a later date when they can better afford to. The truth is that the later it gets in the game, the less time you have to pull off the strategy. Most financial advisors stop taking a risk when you are within 10 years of retirement, as a major drop in the stock market could scrap your retirement plans. Another retirement misstep that I see all the time is when parents put their children's college savings ahead of their own retirement savings. From my point of view, you're trashing your chances of ever being able to retire, as you just spent 22 years of saving all of your money to pay for your child's education, which is probably around $250,000 per child for a full year of private education. To make matters worse, you told them to get a good job after college, and being like you, they too are now rats, and the vicious cycle continues. The final thing we need to discuss very frankly is the role that Social Security will play in the future. Social Security was never meant to be a standalone retirement plan. Instead, it was created to augment people's pensions in retirement and to provide a safety net for people. Right now, the baby boomers are just starting to retire, and this is going to continue for another 15 years. And now that people are living a lot longer, what kind of strain do you think that's going to put on the system? It's going to take a lot more money in the future to pay for this program, And my personal belief is that we're going to see a combination of higher taxes, reduced benefits, and most likely means testing. Play it safe. Don't start counting your Social Security chickens unless you are already close to retirement age. If you are in the rat race now, you have got to be thinking that if you are a rat on the fishing boat, the Andrea Gale, which was the fishing boat which sank in the movie The Perfect Storm. There is a perfect storm out there brewing, and it is going to sink your ship if you don't stop following the conventional wisdom of the rats. The rats are going to trade their time for their money well into their 80s, and they are never going to experience financial freedom. The good news is that you can avoid the perfect storm, but you are going to have to jump ship before the storm hits. Let's talk about what it's like on the other side when you're not a rat. Time truly is the most precious commodity that we have, and do not waste it in the rat race working for someone else is priceless. True success is being able to do what you want when you want to do it. It is not about how much stuff you can collect to try to look successful to the other rats. You come to the realization that the entire working world has got it wrong. Instead of being in a constant state of stress over your day-to-day finances, you're relaxed and in a state of prosperity. Rather than trading time for money, you have assets which work for you, providing you with ongoing cash flow. Another difference is that instead of financing liabilities, aka stuff, you only finance income-producing assets. You are able to spend your time pursuing your interest, and you didn't have to wait until old age for retirement. This might sound too good to be true if you are currently stuck in the rat race, but it's not. Our courses are here to teach people the concepts which you will need to understand what it takes to make the transition from rat to investor. This is not something that is get rich quick like the ads you see on late night television. If you already learned the secrets for escaping the rat race, let us begin by exposing the mythology. Rat mythology. Leaving the rat race forever may seem like an impossible task. The longer you have been in it, the longer you have been drinking the corporate Kool-Aid. The biggest and most prevalent myth out there is that it's riskier to be an entrepreneur than it is to have a JOB, which is an acronym for just over broke. Let me explain why this is a total myth with a simple analogy. Let's imagine that you own a hardware store and you only have one customer, and one day without warning, your only customer dies and you're now out of business. Well, that's exactly what it's like to have a job. You might think you have job security, but you really don't. I remember when I got downsized without warning several years ago, and I never saw it coming. If it had not, I honestly don't think I would have ever left that company. Fortunately for me, it happened, and it forced me out of my comfort zone and eventually out of the rat race. Another major myth out there is that failure is the end of the journey, i.e. you go out of business. The only time you ever fail in life is if you quit. Otherwise, failure is just a part of your education to tell you what didn't work so that you can correct it and move forward. I will never forget a conversation with the head of the accounting department where I worked in corporate. He told me that he had heard that I had submitted my formal resignation. He then told me he had dreamt of owning a wine vineyard, but he was too afraid to leave his job and go for it. He then asked me the question, "Pete, what if it doesn't work out?" I thought about this for about 1 second and I said, I guess I'll just have to come back and get another job. It was then that I realized that being employed in corporate in a job that I hated actually was my worst case scenario, and that there was nothing to lose. All of my experience was not going to disappear. I was not going to lose all of the education that I had, and I certainly would not have trouble finding another job if I wanted one. Another very popular myth among the rats is that it takes money to make money. They treat that statement almost as a natural law, and they don't even bother to try. Hard work and enthusiasm will make you a lot more money than money alone will. Money also has a funny way of finding entrepreneurs who have great ideas and a solid plan. Another myth out there is that you need to have a job and good credit to borrow money. If that were true, how would you explain the fact that in my first year as a real estate investor, I borrowed over $1 million and bought 10 rental properties, and I did it without ever going to a bank, filling out a loan request, or sharing my credit score? The real truth is that the entire rest of the world suffers from a bunch of limiting beliefs. There are many more I can give you examples of, but you get the point. To believe in all of these myths, everyone is keeping themselves trapped in the rat race. Through following society's beliefs and then making them your own, you've created the reality that you now find yourself in. That is good news, as now you realize you can begin to change your life. Once you stop believing in limits, you become limitless. Once you stop thinking along the lines of why not instead of why you can't, everything will change for you. One of the biggest keys to success is to stop thinking like everyone else. Everyone else has basically gotten it wrong. They're not happy. They all say they want wealth and success, but they are not doing anything differently in their lives. If you are going to get different results, you are going to need to start doing things differently. People who have successfully escaped the rat race think entirely different from those who are still there. I hope that our discussion on being a rat has not made you feel hopeless. Instead, I hope that it has acted as a wake-up call for you to take charge of your life and your future. I hope that you will take the next step and visit peterdadams.com, where you can learn about the life-changing courses that we offer through our Own the Cheese seminars. Success is a choice. You choose it. I hope you and your family say that you do. I wish you all the best.